Hello YouTube. Hello, hello. This time, we have another waifu. And Alisa, this time. So Alisa is one of those characters, in my opinion, that... let me actually go to the game. Alisa is one of those characters, in my opinion, that are a little bit overlooked. And I think she will remain pretty strong in the game even after the balance changes. The main reason for that is because the main focus right now in Tekken 8 are characters like Dragunov, characters like Fang, like Xiaoyu, like Azucena, June maybe, you know, those kind of characters, or King. And someone like Alisa, for example, will go a little bit under the radar, even though she's really good. But obviously she's not their level. It's not the same level. But yeah, let's talk about the character. The big thing about this matchup as well, before we talk about the character herself, this matchup, when you do your, usual Kazuya stuff with electric keep out, trying to, electric hell sweep and mix them up and stuff like that, the big thing about this matchup is just one move that kind of stops you from doing almost any of it. And it's very, very strong, and it's back one. So I just wanted to mention this back one very separately at the start of the vid, because this move literally changes a lot of stuff on how you deal with the character, as Kazuya though, not maybe any other character, but as Kaz. It's a little bit better than Tekken 7, but it's still very good to move to just keep Kazuya out and just check him as well. Now why? Let me just mention this. So this move is a 15 frame mid. This is -5, right? It does not have a counter property, but it's a 15 frame damaging mid. You can sidestep it actually, but only to one side. And it has decent tracking though, so you can't always step it. But you can only step it to the right. So that's why stepping it to the right might be good. But we're gonna talk about her sidestep directions a little bit later, depending on the move, right? But the move, the reason this move is good, one, is that you can work as a keep out, when you try to go in as a hell sweep. They might do this as like a check. Basically stay away from, because there's decent range. I think it can reach from like 2.2 maybe. I think it's like 2.2. Something like that. That's a little bit too far. Something like 2.2, maybe a little bit less. So it has decent range, it's not too bad. You can make it whiff, but the big thing about this is not only does it stop you from mixing her up with your, usually slow moves like down back 4, down back 3, or hell sweep, which is also pretty slow because it's a crouch dash input. It stops you from doing that, but it also stops you from checking her with electrics, because this move crushes highs. You see that? So on whiff and in the animation itself, purely crushes all highs. Just purely does it. Let me just showcase that again. There we go. So you will not be able to whiff punish this. I look like a baby? Yes, baby face. So it just purely crushes all kinds of highs on whiff and in the middle of the animation as well. So if you try to electric her out of it, let's say you electric this, it will just whiff. There we go. But that's why that back one is so damn strong against it. So if it whiffs, make sure to do a mid as a punish. You cannot do electrics against it. So that's why this move is so strong against someone like us. And it was pretty much very, very strong in the previous game. The one difference that is right now, Silicon, thank you for the ball. The one difference that exists right now is the existence of forward 2. The existence of this makes this move a little bit worse, because now we can actually punish this way more consistently on whiff with something like this with long range. And if you want to check Alisa, because she presses so much, you can also check with forward 2. Right? So that's also a good thing. Instead of checking her and checking them with electrics in general, you can do forward 2, which will also check this move. So that's good. So forward 2, the existence of it makes this move a little bit worse, but it's still really good to deal with against Kazuya players, so you have to look out for this. And good Alisa players know how to do this. Have a crush on whiff? Yes. I mean, that's a big thing in general. Like something like this will also crush, because it has a crouching status on whiff. But yeah, this is just a unique move that does that, because it also goes crouching. Okay, So I talked about back 1. So let me just continue about back 1's properties just a little bit before I go into Alisa's stuff. Since I start talking about back 1, I guess let's just go into Alisa's mids a little bit as well. So back 1 is one of the mids that are really, really good. And back 1 is very, very good for 2 reasons. One is the reasons I already talked about. And the second one is because on hit, it's +8. It's only -5 on block, I already showcased that. And it can go into full crouch status. So that means... Well, not can, I think it always does. That means she can full crouch mix you up. And Alisa's full crouch mix up is pretty good, because she has this slow. I'm going to talk about this slow when I actually cover the mids. But, not mids, lows. But before that, just to remember that this goes into full crouch and instantly mixes you up. So if you try to punish this with jabs, let's say you do a jab here, right? Just to check her, like a 1-1. It won't work. You have to do a mid check, like a down 4-4, for example. Right? Or a down 4-2 will work too. But the big thing about the checking her with mids here is that she has a power crush. Not this. I mean, this is also a string, but you almost never see this because it's so risky to do. She has a power crush afterwards as well, which they sometimes do. I don't know the input. What's the input? Back, forward. I know this one, but you have to crouch cancel. I think you can do the back version of the power crush without it. Forward back too. Yeah, anyway, she has a power crush that she can do as well. Up back two. Did they change this? I could swear it was forward back or back forward. Okay, up back two. So she can do this into this. So if you do something like a down forward 4, you will get beaten. I mean, even if you jab, this will beat it, right? But make sure to not delay your jabs, or you also get beaten. They changed it. Okay, so they did change it. That's good to know. So yeah, be careful about that. Yeah, that is a high, but it will beat all your mid checks. So that's why you don't always mid check after it. Maybe the power crush will beat you, or maybe she will do a sidestep right immediately afterwards, and that will beat you. For example, this into sidestep, your down forward 4 gets beaten, right? Your back 2 might not get beaten, or some other options like these ones, right? But down forward 4, for example, can be beaten. Excuse me. Sorry for the coughs. I don't know why am I coughing so much these days. Okay. So that's about back 1. More or less about back 1. Just have to be careful. The other very good mid that they also use is down forward 2. Let's talk about this move. The down forward 2 is a 16 framer, which is a little bit different from a generic down forward 2, but it still serves the same purposes, which is, keep out, stay away from me tool, which is a -9, which is a little bit different from normal down forward 2s. I think they're a bit less than -9, but it's still safe. That's what matters. The -9, safe mid, and it will normally launch you if you're not ducking. If you are ducking, this animation happens. +7, you're not going to get launched. So only launched if you're standing. That's the big thing about it. But it just serves as a keep out tool, basically. So you have to be careful about going in after Alisa and doing something like a hell sweep immediately or a delayed forward 4-3. You might get down forward 2. It's a keep out tool, as I said. And that's why usually they might also use this sometimes, not that much, for plus frames, like 1-2, down forward 2. 1-2 on hit, they might down forward 2 just to, catch you. This +8, down forward 2, you won't be able to step this, you won't be able to press after it, unless you do a power crush, right? Obviously. But they might do something like that as well. So be careful. But otherwise, oh my goodness, I forgot to record. But otherwise, this down forward 2 is a little bit linear. You can actually step it to the right. It has decent tracking to the left. You can sidewalk it, but usually it catches your sidestep. But it's linear to the right. But usually you won't sidestep because, as I said, they don't use it like that. Usually they will use it in plus frames to check you, or as a keep out tool. But if you do like a dash into sidestep, that can make it whiff. So yeah, be careful about down forward 2. And on block, when you block this, they might power crush as well, because in general, Alisa players love doing this power crush. Not this one. This one. This power crush right here. They love doing this. This one and this one. Both of them. They love it. So be careful about power crushes in general. No matter what you block, just be careful about them. Okay. Now let's talk about one of the most used mids as well, which is forward 2. And this is one of the best mid checks she has, and there are a lot of reasons for it. This might actually take me a little bit to explain. So forward 2, by itself, is a 17 frame mid. It's -4, which is really, really good for a mid, you know? Very little minus. It has decent tracking to the left, basically it's tracking. You can sidestep it to the right sometimes, but it has decent tracking to the right as well, a little bit. As you guys can see, it tracks my sidestep sometimes. But most of the time, you'll be able to step it. That's why sidestep right is very good against Alisa, but only in close range. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later too. And the reason this move is very strong is because it has a lot of properties. So let's talk about them. So one is it's a +7, right? It's +7 on hit, -4 on block. That means on block, she can actually move very, very freely. So a lot of stuff will whiff. This into backdash, this into sidestep, any sidestep, and a lot of your stuff will whiff because it's only -4. But the big thing about this is that it has a lot more follow-ups, as I said. One of them is the chainsaw extension. So what the Alisa can do after forward 2 is transition into chainsaw immediately. This is one of the most popular chainsaw transitions. One of the most popular ones anyway. So forward 2, chainsaw, and then instant chainsaw wall, for example, right? If something like this happens, and you block forward 2, right? And try to jab check, you won't be able to jab it. Or magic 4. Or even if you electric this, right? It's just a pure high crush. So something like this might happen just because the chainsaw transition exists, right? But obviously you can check her with mids because of that. And you can also, you know, sidestep it. Let's say this and this. That's what she does because of the high crush property, right? You can sidestep this and, you know, punish her. It's entirely possible to do something like this. But now comes the problem with sidestepping. The problem with sidestepping and the even checking is that she has a follow-up with the 1. So this is a mid-mid. You can't really duct or anything. That's only -10. You can't sidestep this because, you know, it just tracks you. It's a heat engaging hit mid. It's a normal hit mid-mid, right? So it's a combo. And it's only -10. And the best part about this is your jabs can whiff sometimes based on how you block this. Most of the time if you block both of them, it won't whiff, but sometimes it still does. You see that? -10, jab can whiff. Right now, Kazuya's 1-1 whiffed. So it's very, very weird to punish this sometimes. There you go with whiffed. So it's a very, very strong move, and in my opinion, this needs a nerf to -12 at least. If not -13. Because I don't know why a move this strong is only -10. It's a mid-mid heat engager, natural hit combo, and it wouldn't be this strong if it was the only thing it could do, but forward 2 by itself is very good, because of the chainsaw transition, and because of the -4 property that it has. It's very, very strong. And usually that's why you see people getting hit by this, even though they blocked forward 2. The main reason is that they're afraid of this chainsaw transition into mix-up, so they try to step after it. Or they're just afraid to, you know, get caught by sidesteps, or just pressure in general. That's why you might see someone get hit by this, even though they're not pressing anything, they're just trying to move. Okay, so that's one of the reasons this move is so damn good, 4-2-1. And we all know heat engager, very, very scary. Chainsaws, instant mix-up. I'm going to talk about chainsaws a little bit separately. So yeah, be careful about this move. 4-2 is very, very strong. Okay. Other than that, one of the new moves that are also very good is 1+2. I don't see this used that much. 1+2 is also really, really good. So this is a 19 frame mid. I'll talk about this. This is also only -4, just like forward 2. But it doesn't have good tracking. The tracking on this move is a little bit iffy. So I can more or less easily punish this. Right? That's the weakness of this move, the tracking of it. But the on-block property is really good. It's only -4, as I said. And on hit, it's a heat engager. So it's a pretty good move. Pretty damn good. And then heat, of course, you can just, you know, combo after it. I don't know what the combo is, but you can combo after it. So it's a pretty good move. So look out for 1+2 sometimes, but I don't see it used that much. Maybe we'll see it a little bit later in the game's lifespan, because I think the move is really good. Even though it's risky. Okay, let's talk about back 3 now. And then afterwards back 4. Have to talk about down forward 4 as well. And down forward 1. I think those are the main moves I should be covering. So back 3 for now. So back 3 is her tracking and mid option, basically. If you try to sidestep her too much, she does have that back 3. It's a little bit on the slower side, so if you do a sidestep into a block, you actually block this, right? But if you commit to a sidestep, usually this will catch you. And this is a very, very good move. And the main reasons for it is that it's -8, it's safe, right? But the biggest reason why it's so good is the pushback that it gives. This pushback basically means that any button that you press afterwards, Alisa can whiff punish you for it, because it will whiff. Basically anything will whiff. Anything Alisa does, a sidestep or a backdash, will make everything whiff. Even if you do something like a back forward here, which usually has a good range. If Alisa backdashes, that whiffs. That's why this move is so strong, and a lot of good players will use it for that reason. So yeah, this is safe, and maybe some good Alisa players might even do a back 3 into down 3 to, you know, continue pressure, because they know that you're not gonna press anything. They know that. Or even dash forward in your face to press and to continue their pressure. So you have to be very careful about back 3. And the big thing about back 3 is that it has decent range. It's very hard to backdash, right? Pretty decent range. And it's a tracking move, obviously you can't sidestep it. But if you do backdash it, you have to, you know, punish it. The whiff on it is really bad. It's very hard to make this whiff, but if you do make it whiff, you have to punish it hard. Because the whiff is pretty damn bad. You have a lot of time to punish this. Okay, that's about back 3. Let's talk about down forward 4 now. Down forward 4 is the 12 frame mid check that Alisa players have. Basically, this is the fastest mid check they have. And I think it's the fastest mid check in game. In Tekken, in general. I don't think there's anything faster than a 12 frame mid check. For what I remember, anyway. So yeah, it's a -7 mid check, which also has the same kind of strength that back 3 does. And that is the pushback on block. This pushback, -7 pushback, is very, very strong for someone like Alisa. I'm pretty sure it's an intended design choice. That it's a -7 12 frame mid that's usually weak to sidestepping, usually sidestep right. I think you can even sidestep to the left, never mind. You can sidewalk it to the left. But yeah, sidestep right is usually the weakness of it. But on block, especially if you backdash and block it, it's a very, very big pushback. And if a Alisa player does one backdash, everything you do will also whiff. So you have to be very careful about these kind of situations. Very, very careful. The pushback situation in Tekken is what a lot of good players will utilize. So that's why you have to be careful. And even if you're not playing against a good player, let's play, I don't know, you think your opponent's garbage, right? Sometimes that can happen. They might, you know, use this kind of strategies anyway. Who knows? So you have to be careful. And not to mention, the next mid I wanted to talk about is back 4, which is also one of the whiff punishes she has, which has amazing range, right? Look at this range on back 4. So if anything whiffs, this will whiff punish you 100% of the time. And it does decent damage. I think this is the combo. That's not the combo. Something like that is the combo. 1 2 1 3 plus 4 maybe. It does like 60 damage basically. So it will whiff punish you. I don't remember the input. So be very, very careful about that. Because not only can she make some of your moves whiff, she can also very easily whiff punish you with back 4 4. But now let's talk about this move in general. Back 4 and back 4 4. So back 4 is a 15 frame knee. That's actually very good to use in the neutral as well. It is punishable at -13. You can actually punish this. And it's also linear to the right. And usually you want to step Alisa to the right, as I already said. Because this has a little bit of tracking to the left, just slightly. But you can also step this to the left most of the time. But it has very slightly more tracking. There you go, that's the slight tracking I talked about. So yeah, stepping to the right is way more consistent. But what makes this move good is that it's a countered launcher. Even though it's punishable, it's a countered launcher. I mean, obviously it's punishable and countered launcher. Mostly that's the case, but the big thing about this move, which makes it good, is the follow-up, which I already talked about, back 4 4. This right here. That makes this move hard to punish. Because sometimes when you want to punish this, let's say you see back 4 and you want to punish it, you might get countered by the last one, the second string. So you have to be very careful about that back 4-4. But now let's talk about how to punish this back 4-4. So as Kaz, I'm going to be talking about this Kaz because I think all characters will have different punishments. The best way to punish this is a dash electric. You do a dash and then do either a God Fist or an electric. You can do both, basically. You have the time. It's minus 37. That's a lot of minus. The big minus of doing this is that you have to do it very, very fast. And the big reason why you have to do it fast is because of this transition. This fly transition right here. So Alisa can go into fly after this and then try to check you. So if you try to do this dash electric, let's say you dash electric, and you're a little bit slow, you might get hit by it. So you have to be careful. But even if you get this float, it's not that bad. I think maybe you can hit Heats first after this. You cannot. But a hit's a hit, basically. If you want like a float combo, you can also react to this sometimes. Like do a dash into a react jab, if you see that, and do a float combo. But usually the electric is very good because you get the launch if they don't do the fly. But if they do the fly, you can also do some other stuff, like, you know, 3-1. Even back 2-2 can work. Stuff like this. But as I said, you have to be careful because of the non-fly option. I think we might have a... What's it called? We might have an option select for this, but I don't remember it exactly. A forward 3 might be an option select, which is easy. A forward 3 or back 4. Or maybe even forward 4 2. But I don't think we have a good option select that will also float. So you gotta be very careful about this. Other than that, back 4... I think that's about it about back 4. I'm gonna talk about this stance a little bit later as well. This one. Fly stance. So that's back 4. Now let's talk about down forward 1. The down forward 1 is pretty strong. But one thing that changed with down forward 1 is the extensions changed by a lot. So let's talk about down forward 1. So down forward 1 is a 13 frame mid, which is like usually a down forward 1. But the big difference it has is it's a lot more minus than normal down forward 1s are. It's minus 6. And it's also steppable to the right. As I said, usually you want to step Alisa to the right and close up. But the reason it's minus 6 is because of the follow-ups that it has. One follow-up is a mid-mid, down forward 1, down forward, not down forward 1, forward. Just a 4. But this move got nerfed. This move in the previous game used to be safe, minus 9. Now it's minus 11. And for us players, that means back 1, 2. You always back 1, 2 this. It will almost always work. There are some situations where back 1 becomes 12, but almost always this will work. It's really good, other than the 1, 1, 2, whenever you block this. This is a big change. Because this used to be safe. And this is counter it natural. It's not natural on normal hit. You can still punish it. But it's a counter of natural string. But the big thing about this is that it also has a high follow-up. This one right here. It's on the slower side. You can sometimes even react to this. But you still have to be careful because a mid exists as well. Okay. Now let's talk about the high. This high, obviously you can duck it. Now, I think you can even sidestep it sometimes, but you have to be very careful about stepping it because it actually has pretty decent tracking. But sometimes it's steppable in very, very niche situations, but it's very rare. I would not really consider stepping this an option. I think I stepped this before, that's why I'm saying it, but have to be very careful about this, and usually you have to duck it. But if you block this, remember that Alisa player is actually plus here. So Alisa is +1 after this. Very, very careful about pressing the jab here because the Alisa player might do the same. But the big thing about this move is that not only is it plus, it also has another follow-up. Chainsaw follow-up. So even if you try to press here, let's say you try to press the jab afterwards, right? If you're down forward 1-1. You are gonna get chainsawed in your face. Just like that. So be very careful. Oh, and about this move, when you duck this, make sure to stay ducking for a long time. Because this actually has a horrendous whip recovery. That's still a punish. So just stay ducking for a long ass time and then punish it. If you do while staying 1-2, it will almost always work. That's how we punish this. You don't have to be fast at all or else this will happen. You actually block this and miss a launch. So if you want to be super safe, do while staying 1-2 on it. If you want to be super safe. If you want big damage, sometimes while staying 2, but make sure to stay ducking for a long time and then do it. Okay. So that's about that move. But the big thing that I didn't mention is the counter hit property on down forward 1-1. This is the strongest thing that it has. This is all guaranteed. So this is one of the most strongest things Alisa has right now. I don't know if this is gonna get changed in the future. Hopefully it does because it's very strong. But this is one of the strongest things she has, which is a counter hit 13 frame mid down forward 1, having all this guaranteed on counter. So let me demonstrate it. Let me just do this, and now I'm gonna get counter hit by it. This is all guaranteed. I cannot block this. Am I playing with viewers? I will. After this I will. Okay, so it's a 60 damage mid counter hit tool that comes out in 13 frames. It's -6 by itself, but has 2 extensions, and you can confirm this on counter hit sometimes and continue the chainsaw. So it's very, very strong. You have to be look out for this a lot. Be very careful for this move. The 60 damage is basically a mini combo on counter hit. It's very strong. Okay. I talked about that, back 3, back 1, down forward 4, forward 2. I think most moves I talked about. Oh, back 2. I think I have to mention this as well. I think we sometimes see this. Not this one. And there's also a jab string I want to talk about. 2-3. There we go. Those two. So let's talk about 2-3 first. So 2-3 is a move that a lot of Alisa players also like to use. It's a 12 frame mid. 12 frame startup mid. It's a high mid. Which is only -10. Right? You can punish this. But the reason they use this a lot is because of the follow-up that it has. 2-3-3. So let's talk about this follow-up first. So the way this follow-up works is that if you do try to press, let's say you try to press, this is a counter hit launcher when you try to punish the second hit with the 1-1. So you have to be very careful about punishing that. And the full thing is also only -11. Even though it's a counter hit launcher, only -11, so it means back 1-2 Fukas. Normally 1-1-2 can also work if you're not too confident about back 1-2. So be very, very careful about this. But the big thing that this move has is that it's all counter hit confirmable. Not confirmable, but guaranteed. Mr. CR, hello. So be very careful. They might use this as a counter hit move, especially at the wall, and confirm it and do a 2-3 and not finish the last hit if they don't see a counter hit. This is basically good Alisa player tech that a lot of good Alisa players might use, especially the confirm part. But it's still very, very worth doing when, especially you are at the wall. That's why Alisa players do this. Because they get a free wall splat, right? Obviously. So be very careful about that. Oh, I should talk about the 3 as well. I almost forgot. So yeah, 2-3, be careful. It's basically a punish mix-up. You either punish this with 10 framer, or wait for this and punish it with an 11 framer. Okay. So back 2 is sometimes used, but not that much. Should I really talk about it? So back 2 is very rarely used mid in the neutral. Sometimes it is used because of this property right here, the mid-high, which is a wall splat, right? And it's safe because it's high. You have to duck it. And it gets mixed up with this new mid, which is launch punishable. And that's why you don't see it that much. But I'm just gonna briefly explain this as well. Not explain this, but mention this, like I did right now. Norwegian, take a file. There's also one more thing I wanted to mention, which is down 2. I just remembered it. Is down to 4, I think? Down to 4. And the Alisa players use this a lot because this move is safe mid-mid. So it's a safe mid-mid that can wall splat, right? It's pretty strong. It has big knockback. Notice knocks down, and it has a pretty big one, big knockdown. And it's safe, you can't jab it, it's -9. The big weakness this move has is the range of it. So if you backdash against Alisa a lot, you will punish it. But just be careful not to float it. But I just want to mention this move because the Alisa players do use it a lot. The second weakness it also has is that you can, what's it called? You can sidestep it. Oh yeah, back to 1. I forgot back to 1. Almost forgot. So yeah, back to 1 also has this usage. And thank you for mentioning it. But that's how you don't see this move that much. But back to 1 is also a move that Alisa players might use in their back to mind games. This is a -13 mid-mid that you can punish pretty consistently as long as you don't jab it too much because it might whip like that. So back 1 too can work, and like down back 1 is like very consistent as well, -13. But just be careful about mashing after it. But other than that, it's not too scary. Like back 2 mix-up is too scary. But they might still use it. That's why I wanted to mention it. Yeah. Is there any other mids I didn't mention? 3, and I think that's it. So I want to mention the 3 because the 3 now has a good extension. It's a 13 frame mid. Let's just talk about 3 for now, without the extension. So 3 is a 13 frame mid. It's actually punishable normally, but no one just does the 3 most of the time. Most of the time they will finish the straight. I'm pretty sure no one knows this is punishable because I didn't know either. I didn't know this was punishable. But it's because no one actually uses it outside of the second follow-up, which is a 2. This one right here. So 3-2 is what the Alisa players use sometimes as a mid check, just to, you know, check you and go into heat because it's a heat engager. Combo versus Jack, just 3-1-4. That's what I do against bigs anyway. Okay. So this move, the biggest weakness this move has is that 1, it's steppable. You know, you can step it to the right, which I also said. That usually you don't want to step Alisa to the right. But it's steppable both ways. I think it's actually more steppable to the left to the right, but it's steppable both ways basically. That's one of the weaknesses it has. But the second hit is tracking. So if you do keep sidestepping, let's say you keep sidestepping, right? This will track you. So that's why something like sidestep duck is very important here. Keep in mind that the second hit is always going to be a high, duck after it, and always launch it. Because if you do block it, it's safe. It's only -2. And -2 means power crush time. That's what it means. If they power crush, it will beat anything you do. So be very careful. They'll either power crush there or they will, you know, sidestep. I think chainsaw sidesteps down or down 3, whatever they do. I'll talk about that a little bit later when I actually go into the chainsaw stance. So yeah, be careful about this string in general. 3-2. And since I mentioned this, I also want to mention this as well. Upward 2. Which is basically the second hit of this. Right? The same move. This one right here. And the Alisa players might use this as their keep out option. Basically, they're saying stay away from me with this move, and also they're saying don't sidestep as well. This is the tracking option, fast, 16 frame high, which is also only -2, just like the second hit of that string, the 3-2. So this, you have to be very, very careful of, because this is their keep out move, and it's hard to whiff punish most of the time because it recovers quite well, and has a lot of range. Like, look at that range, right? That range, that's pretty good. Right? Even that hits. Let me try to actually see the range. That's a lot. Even more than that? That's a lot. 2.6? Wait. What the fuck? Okay, that was a lot. Wait. You see, okay, you get what I mean. That a lot of range. So you have to be very careful about this. I can't believe it hit so far away. That's crazy. Oh, bruh. Okay. I'm surprised. I knew it had a lot of range, but not that much. It's crazy. So be careful about this. This is usually used as a keep out, and it's very, very strong. So you have to make it whiff via backdashing or just baiting it and then punishing it. But when you punish this, make sure to do something very fast or with a good range. Like electrics can work if you're fast enough, back 4 can work, 4-4-2 can sometimes work. Just make sure to do that. Yeah, 3-4-2. I almost forgot to mention this. Norwegian right now being the GOAT. So yeah, for the 3-4 route 2 is also one of the things that she can do. Maybe if they see you always ducking this because of the high, there's also a chainsaw follow-up with mid that can work. So if you duck this, you will get hit by it and instantly go into chainsaw mix-up. But it's punishable. Basically, it's gonna be a mix-up after a 3 if you always duck it, right? So you gotta be careful, but if you don't duck, they'll never do this. They'll usually always do the high if you don't do the ducking after it. So at least force them to use it, right? If you force them to use it, at least you're creating a mind game. So that's good. Okay, other than that, what other mids should I talk about? I mean, this is a 14 frame punish she has, but you just have to lap this. You have to duck it, usually, the second hit. This is just a launch punishable mid. I think that's it, more or less. That's the snake edge. Yeah, she does not have a full throw game. She has a 1+2 throw. I don't think she has a 1 or 2 throw. Okay, let's talk about her lows now. So her lows, let's talk about one of the main ones, which was her main one in 7 as well, which is down 3. This is a very common low that a lot of Alisa players will just throw out. It has a lot of range, right? As you guys can see, it reaches from quite far, but it's a little bit on the slower side. And the good thing about this, let's go, hello, is that usually you can launch this, even though it says -10 there, right? Alisa is kind of stuck here, and the frame data is mostly wrong in this situation. It's just almost always punishable with the Wastang 2 or Wastang 1-2. Sometimes Wastang 2 might not work, but Wastang 1-2 will always work. This will always work. Yeah, it's basically bugged. It says punish there. That's what matters. This actually is a punish. So you can punish this Wastang 2 or 1-2. But if you're like a little bit iffy about the punish, just do 1-2. She goes automatically into backup stance. Yeah. That's what I thought as well, but I wasn't quite sure. She basically goes into a stance after this. That's why she can't block after it, basically. Okay. That's about down 3. It's a very long range, so you have to be looking out for it, especially in this kind of ranges. Alisa players won't do down 3 when she's like right here. If she's right here, most of the time you won't see down 3. Sometimes you may, but most of the time you will not. This is the range that you'll see it. You know, backdash down 3. Long range down 3. So be very careful about this because it's also a counter launcher. Be very careful. Okay, that's about down 3, which is also one of the main lows. You can sometimes step it as well, but it's very hard to step, I feel like. If she's actually far away, it's not that easy to step. It's steppable, as you guys can see, but most of the time it's not going to be easy to step. But when you do step it, make sure to use a mid to punish it. Like something like this. Because she may evade highs. That tip range down 3-1 is also natural. Yeah, that's true. That's at least a thing. That right there, that's natural. You can't avoid this, actually. That's like a tip for Alisa players, I guess. How much is it on block? It depends on how tip range it's gonna be. So if you block it from very far away, let's say like this, sometimes you won't be able to punish this with a Mustang too. So let me just showcase this a little bit. So if I block it like this, you see the punish did not light up. It did not light up there. That's why I said that if you're not too comfortable doing wall stemming 2, because sometimes it might not punish, do wall stemming 1-2 instead. Because most of the time it will work. But in this case, even that didn't work. So tip range, it's not even -13. You have to be very careful about this. It's -15. I mean, it depends on the range. Like if you punish it, not punish it, but block a tip range, it might even be -11 sometimes. But most of the time it's more than -15. Like way more. I think it's -18 maybe. So be very careful about down 3. As I said, the blocks frame may change depending on the range. But if it's like too far away, it becomes a little bit easier to react to. So there's that too. That's about down 3. It's one of the main lows she has, and the big thing about this move is that on hit, if this hits you, there are follow-ups like this, right? Like 4, which is a mid follow-up. There's a 2. There's a 1 as well. Usually you'll see the 1. And there's also this 3 follow-up. But I think most of the time what Alisa players do is they don't actually use a follow-up afterwards. And they just stay there. Down 3 and use their +8. Because, you know, that's a lot of plus. So what they do is down 3, full crouch. And do a full crouch mix-up on you. Usually that's going to be the case. So down 3, full crouch mix-up. Something like this. Because you're going to respect this, right? On block, you're respecting this. You're not going to do something like that. Usually you'll respect it. That's why they will do full crouch mix-up on you. Because down 3 actually puts them in full crouch almost instantly. So be ready for a full crouch mix-up. And sometimes duck it. And sometimes you can even step it. I think it's steppable sometimes. But you have to be very careful about stepping this. Yeah, I think in this situation it's not even steppable. Maybe Lily can step it. But yeah, be very, very careful about the mix-up. Usually that's what comes afterwards. So just be ready for it is what I'm saying. Other than that, I don't think down 3 should be mentioned too much. And since I talked about the full crouch mix-up, let's just talk about this low as well. So this low is one of the best lows she has, the full crouch down 1+2. Because it's a full crouch low, but basically enables a full crouch mix-up. It's -11, comes out in 21 frames. Sometimes you can actually see it, or fuzzy it. But usually you won't be able to do that, usually. So you have to be very careful about this mix-up. And it's +5. It's a lot of plus, forces crouch. Be very, very careful when this hits you. And one of the most common things Alisa players do, at least they used to do, is when they hit you with this, oh god, wait. They do a magic 4 immediately after. It's very, very common, because a lot of people like to sidestep after this. And the magic 4 just catches them. This is very, very common. So be afraid of this -5 situation. Sometimes duck the magic 4. Sometimes just a simple backdash can work, even though, you know, you don't really punish the magic 4. So be careful about this, basically. The +5 is pretty scary, because you're also forced crouch. Other than that, I don't think there's too much to talk about after this. This is like basically a +5 mix-up. And the mid mix-up it has for it, I should mention that as well, is this. I mean, she can do other stuff as well if she wants to. She can wall step it too, you know? Or, you know, hop kick after it. She can do any mid mix-up she wants, but the main one is 1+2, which is one of the best ones she has. So while standing 1+2 is the mid mix-up that she has for the full crouch low, which is 20 frames fast. It's basically aligns with the 21 frames that the low has. Its tracking is really good. It's a tracking mid. It's safe in -8. And it gives a knockdown into a guaranteed down 3 here. I think maybe some other stuff may be guaranteed here as well, but basically something is guaranteed. So it does pretty decent damage. Have to be very, very careful about this. And the big thing about this move is that it can also be charged. The chargeable move. If you hold 1+2 a little bit, it becomes 39 frames. Not 39, 28 frames. And if you hold it fully, it becomes 39 frames. So it's a chargeable move. Be very, very careful about this. And if the full charge hits you, it becomes 0. So be careful about pressing after this, because the Alisa player knows it's 0, but most likely you're not used to being 0 in that situation. So yeah, be careful about pressing. Because she might do a down forward 1+2 and counter you with it. And as I said, you don't want to get countered by this move. Okay. That's about the full crouch mix, more or less of it anyway. But now let's talk about one of the best lows she has, which is down 4. So down 4 is super, super good in this game. It got buffed. So I'm gonna talk about this move a lot. So down 4 is a -1 17 frame low. It doesn't high crush, so it will lose against something like an electric check, right? So if you electric check a lot, can be good against this move if they like to do it. But what makes this move so strong is that it's only -1, which is very little minus. Does 15 damage, which is okay. Pretty good damage, because my stature kick does 18, right? And compared to that, that's pretty decent. 15 is still pretty good, because of the speed it has. And it's only -12, so you cannot DP it. Right? Okay, so we already got the properties there. And the thing about down 4 is that it also tracks. Basically, it's tracking. You cannot sidestep this. You can sidewalk it sometimes, but it's not consistent. It's very strong because of that. So that's about down 4. just down 4 though. The big thing that this move has is this follow-up, which is what makes this one of the best slows she has, if not the best slow that she has. So down 4 1+2, if you do punish this, you're basically gonna get countered by it, but at least it's not a launcher, right? It doesn't launch you, you just get countered by it. Which is, pretty good. Hopefully it stays this way. But what makes this move so strong is that this jails on hit. So what does that mean? Jailing is a term in Tekken that means that you cannot duck a high in certain situations. Like that low high, usually you could duck it. In Tekken 7 this was duckable. You cannot duck this anymore. So even though you see the high coming after down 4, if down 4 hits you, the 1+2 is not duckable. You have to block it, basically. You can't do anything about this. Am I putting this on YouTube? Yes, I am putting this on YouTube. So be careful about this. And the best thing what this move has is that it's counter hits natural. So if you do get countered by down 4, in that situation, like that one, right? It's natural, and it's a wall splat. But the big thing about it is the block situation. When you do block this, it's 0. The 0 is actually very, very strong because it's not only 0, it's also pushback. 0 with pushback. How is this on the wall on block? It's always 0. It's always gonna be this, 0 frames. There are very rare instances when it might become +1, I think, but almost always it's 0. So expect the Alisa player to do either jabs, or down forward 1, or backdash or sidestep after it just to make some of your stuff with. So be very, very careful about the situation. And when you do block the down 4, sometimes you have to stay ducking to punish this with the wall standing too. This is very, very important. It's because, as I said, this is one of the best lows she has, if not the best one. Might be arguable, but most likely it's the best low. So that's about down 4. It's a very strong low, but that a lot of Alisa players will use. But the good thing about this jailing, one good thing about this jailing, is that you can actually press after this a little bit later, and it won't hit you. But just be careful about not immediately pressing after down 4. Because it will still hit you. Even though this jails, this is the weird part about this move that I don't understand. Is that when a move jails like this, I feel like even if you press something, you shouldn't really get hit. In this time, if you do press something, you will get hit. You just get hit, which is the weird property that this move has. But if you do delay your press a little bit, you'll just block it anyway, which usually can work. But it's inconsistent, and I don't recommend it. Just wanted to mention it a little bit. Okay, so that's about down 4. But now let's talk about down back 3, which was basically her main mid in the previous game, which got nerfed a little bit. So this move got nerfed by 1 frame. This used to be -1. And I think it used to be 15 frames fast, or maybe 17 frames fast, I don't remember. Basically it got changed by 1 frame. So it's -2 now, instead of -1. It is still high crushing, pretty decent. But it doesn't have a counter property. And the big nerf that's very, very important for us here is that it's -13 on block now. This is very, very important because this used to be -12. So down back 3 isn't as good as the low as it used to be, especially against Kaz. So if a Alisa player likes doing this and you block it, always TP it. It's -13 now. That's a big change for this matchup, so you have to use it against Alisa. If they do like to do down 4s instead, that makes our electric checks way faster, not faster, stronger. Because as I said, down 4 doesn't have high crushing. Then they might start doing back 1s, these moves, which I mentioned at the start of the speed lab, this move right here. For high crushing purposes. Be careful about that. Okay, I think that's about it for lows as well, more or less. But now we have to actually talk about the chainsaw stats. And my god, the chainsaw stats. So, this stance right here. So this stance used to be very good, but now it's even better. So first let's talk about the most common moves that you will see. The most common moves that you'll see, the mid one anyway, is this move right here. So this is chainsaw forward 1+2. So it's a 23 frame mid that's +5 on block, right? It's very plus. Has a lot of hits, so this will deal a lot of chip damage, as you guys can see. Especially in heat, this will chip you down very fast. And it gives Alisa guaranteed stuff on hit. The big thing that they get is either a power crush here, if this is guaranteed, And I think she can also get something that will give her a floor break. Basically a combo in floor break stages. I don't remember the input. I used to do this. Maybe this is guaranteed. I forgot. I forgot the input, but basically she gets something that will floor break. So you have to be very, very careful about this. I forgot the input. I wanted to showcase it, but I actually forgot the input for it. My bad, guys. But yeah, she gets something that will floor break. So be careful on hit. Be very, very careful on hit. Okay, so that's the mid option she has. And the main way you can avoid it, let's say she does forward 2 transition. Wait, I talked about forward 2 being one of the main transitions, right? So let's talk about that. Like this, into this. Main weakness this has is that you can sidestep it. And usually you want to sidestep it to the left. Right? This is the main weakness that it has. And then you just punish it. But there's one big thing that I want you guys to remember about this move. That it has a follow-up. Not a lot of people know, but it actually has a follow-up. So, the situation here might be something like this. This, 1+2. They might see the whiff and finish this on purpose. Some Alisa players do this. So this, you try to punish it. GG, well played, right? You just got launched. Because you weren't patient enough. Or not fast enough. So make sure to be very fast here on your punish. Either very fast or just go behind her. And do something like this, you know, back there. Because something like this can happen to you. And that hurts, okay? That doesn't just hurt in game, that hurts your soul. Because you just missed the whiff punish. So be very careful about that. The second most common option they do in Chainsaw is down 1. It's their main low option, basically. So this is a -12 low. It also chip damages a little bit, but it really doesn't matter, to be honest. And you just while staying for 4 punish it. But the big thing about it is that it's +4, right? +4 low. So it's still plus, you have to be very careful. And it has decent tracking to one direction. So if you sidestep right block, you won't be able to avoid it. But that's why you do sidestep left. Well, sidestep left will usually avoid this. But just commit to a sidewalk most of the time to make it consistent. It has slightly good tracking, as I said. The sidewalk left, you will avoid something like this. And you might get her back as well, and get something like this guaranteed. You know, whatever your backwards combo is. So this is one of the main things, but let's see what she has to deal with the sidestep, which is one of the most annoying stuff she has in the stats. And many good players will actually abuse this. Extra tank for follow. So many good players will abuse these moves when they see you sidestepping, or even if they don't see you sidestepping, they'll just use it anyway because they're that good. The best one of the best ones, is this into back 2-1. This is crazy. This is a crazy move. So let me just talk about this move and why it's so crazy. So this move is what they use if they see you sidestepping. Is this move tracks both directions. Basically a tracking move, right? The tracking mid. The tracking mid that does this little knockdown. And you might think, okay, let me just block it, right? But it's only -3 on block. Now what does that mean? Not only is it -3 on block, it also forces you to be crouched, right? So forced crouch while staying 4 will come out if you do a 4, obviously. But the -3 means that the most common options they do after this, and trust me when I say this, these 2 options are one of the most common ones. Oh, everyone does this, almost everyone. One is the chainsaw back to 2, back to 1, my bad, I forgot the input, god damn it. So chainsaw back to 1, power crush, very common, you almost always see this. So you block this, you try to punish it, let's say you lost tank 4, you don't get it, right? It doesn't work. You try to wall tank 1, 2, won't work. You try to, you know, just check her with jabs, after the dash, won't work. 1+2 won't work. So any of your buttons will not work here. Down jab whiffs. Doesn't work. Down 2 whiffs. Well, not doesn't whiff, but gets power crushed. You have to be very, very careful here. And the big thing about this move, my grabs also whiff. The grab that doesn't whiff is a generic one. So if you do want to punish this, you either block this, right? Block, and then back 1, 2, or whatever punish you want. Or you can also do a grab, like a generic one or something that has good range, to counter hit her. And this will actually punish her. Or you can just block it and then do a grab. That both works. You know? But yeah, be very careful about this. Very, very careful. This is a very common option. But now let's talk about the second most common option. It's this right here. So it's either that or this. Basically any side. They will choose a side and then just sidestep there. I don't know which side the Alisa players usually default to. Maybe I should, you know, pay attention sometimes. Because I think there's a side that the Alisa players usually default to. But they will basically do this immediately afterwards. Now I'll show you why. So they do something like this into the 1. Very common. Either of those two options are going to be very common. You block this. Let's say you try to check. Doesn't work, right? It will work. So if you try to, you know, get up and check, even that doesn't work. If you try to throw, let me try to throw. It doesn't work. Even though it's tracking, right? It won't work. Does not work. It's because she's airborne in this situation. The good thing is that at least it won't punish you. I might be slow here, I'm not sure. It might be punishable. The throw might be punishable. But just be careful about this. It's very, very common for them to do this. I mean, very common. So maybe a throw can be a good option just to stay safe. But remember, always do a generic throw. Don't do the 1+2 throw, it whiffs. Unless you delay it. If you delay it, it will work. But why delay it? Just do the generic throw. It's better anyway. It changes sides, which is the minus. If you're not that good on your P2, which is usually the case, you're way worse than your on your weak side and your strong side, obviously. That's why it's called the strong side and the weak side. But still, it's worth it. It's a pretty good throw. Okay. So yeah, these two options is why this is so strong. And the best way to beat this is if you do expect it, you have to counter hit it. Which is, to be honest, it's pretty crazy. Because let's say she does a 1-1 chainsaw, which is one of the chainsaw transitions. Because it's a 10 frame punish into chainsaw, right? That's a +5 chainsaw. They might do this, right? They might do this. Or they might do this. And in between, you have 13 frames here. Because +5 into 18. So let me record that to actually show you what that means. So this into back to 1. Very, very common. What this means is that you can't sidestep after it. Even though you can sidestep the other options that I already mentioned, you cannot sidestep this one. So what can you do is just so you can avoid this block situation. Because obviously you don't want to block something that's -3. Right? You don't want to. You actually want to punish something. The way you deal with this is you actually mash a magic 4. This is the best way to deal with this. Because if you do something like a down forward 4, for example, which is 13, it will trade. You don't want this trading because she gets a combo. I think she actually gets a combo here. I'm not too sure, but I think she does. So be very, very careful. And if you press anything slower, let's say down forward 2 because you want to counter launch, doesn't work. You're too slow here. So be careful about the situation. Magic 4 is your best option, basically. Magic 4, forward, forward, 4. Okay. Destruction 1 against smashes, which is almost everything. Yeah, I was gonna talk about that as well. First, I wanted these 3 moves because these 3 are one of the most common ones. So, the Destruction 1, which a Norwegian is talking about, is basically Chainsaw 1. A Destruction stance is the Chainsaw stance. So 1-1 into 1. This one right here. And this option does lose to Sidewalk left in this situation as well. And unless she's in a lot of plus, she won't be able to track you. But if you do press, this will beat you. Just like, you know, Magic 4. It will beat you, right? Your Magic 4 won't be beaten by forward 1+2, but it will also be beaten by the lows, like down 1 or down 2, which high crush. So you have to be very careful about mashing, but as I said, it's a mind game, and the mind game is usually in her favor. Because there's so many options that she has. So anti-sidestep option, which is safe. Pressure option, which is very, very good, does a lot of chip damage, especially in heat, so she has a lot of options here. And now let's talk about the new move. So Destruction 1, usually you can sidestep it as well and then punish it. But let's talk about the new moves too. Down 2 is one of the most annoying ones that she got. So 1-1 chainsaw down 2. Let's say this is the situation, right? This is one of the tracking moves that she has. that will beat your sidestep. But this time it's not mid, it's a low, which is very, very annoying, let me tell you that. Having two options for sidesteps, one of them being a low, one of them being a mid, that's pretty annoying. Because now you're forced to sidestep duck sometimes, or you just have to duck it sometimes. The good thing about it is that it's -14. That's a good thing about it. At least one good thing, right? So if you do duck it, you have to duck all three. Because that's down two, there's no string. If you do press, you're gonna get hit. Duck all three of them and block it. And TP it all the time. Yeah, it's very strong. But it's a little bit on the slower side. But yeah, if you do block it, TP it. Other than that, you can't really beat it because it has good range and it's tracking. So that's very, very strong. And the other new move she got is, I think, 4-2 maybe? Yeah, 4-2-1-2. This mid. So let's talk about this move. Oh my goodness. I misinput it. This 4-2-1-2. There we go. So this is a 15 frame mid. That is not natural, by the way. You might think that all of this is natural. It's not. On the first two is, which doesn't do a lot of damage. But it becomes natural if you do press something in between. That's a natural. And it's also natural on counter hit. So if you get counter hit by this, all of this is natural. If you press something in between the first and second hit, also natural. So basically it's counter hit natural. And the thing about this is that it's also very hard to step most of the time. So let's say she does this into 4-2-1. Right? This can be a little bit iffy to step if you mistime it. Maybe 4-2 is a bad example. Let me try this. Because I have a lot of time after 4-2. No, it is steppable. Why was the clipping me so much? But yeah, I guess it is steppable. You can actually step it pretty consistently. But I could have sworn it was just clipping me every time I tried to. But yeah, it is steppable. But just be careful about the follow-ups tracking you. Just like that. I think that's what was clipping me maybe. So be careful about that. When you do step it, come into a sidewalk like you always do. But you will also get beaten by the tracking options. Okay. But other than that, this is -12. The second option. But there is a third option, just like I showed you. The 2-1-2. Oh my goodness. There we go. 1. If you do try to punish this, you're gonna get hit by this. But if you block the full thing, this is also punishable. So make sure to punish this. There's exception in Heat, but I'm gonna talk about Heat later. Because it's a Heat engager, obviously. I'm gonna talk about Heat a little bit later. Okay, let's talk about some other chainsaw stuff. Is there some stuff left? There is a 2 as well, but you don't see this that much. This one right here, which is a launching mid. Let me just briefly mention this. Cool, thank you for following. So this 2 is basically another mid mix-up she has, which is also safe. But to be honest, it's pretty dumb. It's a very, very dumb mid. So you can also sidestep this, which is good. It's very, very good. But you can also sidestep it to the left. If you do sidestep right a bit, you will get hit. So you have to be very careful. But it is steppable both sides. But it has slide tracking, basically. But usually you won't see this, let me be honest. You won't see this that much. And the best thing to do after it is just to check her, just to get her out of the chainsaw stance. Forward 1. Oh, this. Yeah, I almost forgot the high options. There's also 1+2. So, yeah, the tracking options she also has are the highs. I almost forgot. So, this into forward 1. This is one of the options she has to track you, especially in plus frame situations. After forward 2, if you automatically step, it won't be tracking. But if you delay your step, it will track you. And the 1-1 situation, for example, the 1-1, forward 1, this will also track you. So this is basically a tracking high that she has. Right? It just tracks you. You can't sidestep this. Either direction. I just ducked it by accident. Wait, you can step it to the right? I didn't know that. That's crazy. I just found something out, guys. Good stuff. I didn't know this was step to the right. Yeah, this tracks to the left side, basically. Yeah, it's at least a speed lap. But if she wants to just do a full tracking move, there's also 1+2, which is also another high. Right? You just can't step this at all. And it's fast enough as well for you to not be able to react to it. It's 16 frames. And it's plus 15, that's a lot of plus. You can't backdash it either because, you know, it has pretty good range. And it's only -4. Well, not -4, it's actually plus for Alisa. Yeah, that's crazy. But a lot of pushback. She won't really be using that plus frames too much. So yeah, be careful about these moves as well. So that's why Chainsaw stance is so strong. Not only does she have high moves that track, so the forward 1 and the 1+2, she has a mid that tracks with back 2, tracks both ways basically, back to 1. She has a low that tracks, which is down 2, which is the new move. And she has a 1 which just checks you for any button, which also tracks a little bit sometimes in high plus frames. Basically, be very careful, man. Be very, very fucking careful. And this kind of mind game applies to 1-1 Chainsaw, which is +5, right? And it's the same with this situation. So when you block this, let's say you block forward 1+2, right? Which can happen a lot. This is exactly the same situation as 1-1 on hit, because you're -5. So you can also sidestep in that situation, but you can also do all the tracking moves that you can do to stop you from sidestepping. Okay. Is that it for Chainsaw? Damn, my head hurts. I talk so much in these speed laps, man. Okay. Destruction 2. Yeah, I talked about Destruction 2. I didn't mention that crush jabs. Yeah, I did not mention that. That is true. So this move is what he's talking about. This move, which I already mentioned. So this move can crush jabs. I did know this, but I forgot to mention it. Because I don't see this often enough. Not a lot of Alisa players do that. So jab checking is a little bit out of the question because of this. Again. Yeah, up 2 into Destruction 2. Yeah, up 2 is also... I forgot that this is also one of the most common transitions. So I talked about the up 2 in general, but I forgot to mention that up 2 on block, when it's -2, this is also one of the most common transitions as well. Because it's just a high, you won't be able to duck it, right, all the time. And it's tracking. So you have to be very, very careful about the Chainsaw situation after this. I almost forgot to mention it. And yeah, the 2 here can crush jabs with jab check. If you do a mid check like this, can be okay. But I think she can sidestep it with down 3 and up 3. You know, the sidestep I just mentioned with Chainsaw. So very, very careful in this situation. It's also a Chainsaw mix-up, more or less. So yeah. If you do a down forward 2, it can work, but then you're risking getting punished if they block it. Basically, mind game situation. Kinda sucks, but chainsaws are pretty hard to deal with most of the time. But I think that's it about chainsaws. More or less. If I did forget something, it's okay. I also want to mention this stance. Particularly, I just want to mention this slow right here. Because this is the most common one. This slow and this mid are the most common ones you see. After this, I also want to mention the 2 while running moves, and then we can go into heat. So this stance, this fly stance, has this low, which is a very long range low. It basically looks like a down 3, right? But the big thing that's different from down 3 is the frames on it. So it's -14 normally, but it can become way less minus. So if you hit it from like very long range, let me try to... There you go, -11, right? It can become -10 as well at like super tip range. But most of the time, this will be punishable by while staying 4-4. But -10. -8. Okay, my bad. My bad. So yeah, most of the time it will be punishable by while staying 4-4 though. But keep in mind that it can also become safe, depending on the tip range. Be very, very careful about this move. And the way they mix this up, yeah, it was -8. I thought it was -10 the max, but -8. And there's also this mid that they might use for a mix-up. And the good thing to remember about this mid is that it can change its frames, but most of the time you will be plus. It looks like you're not plus, but most of the time you are. Unless it's on tip range. Like if you block this in tip range, let's say this kind of range, right? There you go, you're minus suddenly. The most minus you can be is -3, but most of the time you will be either 0 or plus. So don't be afraid to disrespect. But one of the reasons Alisa players, not the reasons, one of the flowcharts they do is they purposefully do this tip range hit like this, and then do 2-3. I talked about 2-3 already, right? you guys should remember that I talked about 2-3s, their counter hit move basically. That if they get a counter hit, they will confirm this as a wall splat at the wall. And they will do this on purpose when it comes to this move sometimes. Basically, tip range, this mid, you might think you're plus, but no you're not because of tip range. And then you'll get counter hit into a wall splat into a million damage, right? So be very, very careful about that. That's a very cheesy setup, but it's a setup. The other things they can also do is 1-2 check, which doesn't happen that often, but it can happen sometimes. This is a mid-mid check that basically mixes up with the low as well. The big thing about this is that it's a safe mid-mid, but it's -9. At least you get your turn back. And usually they will not continue the string, because there is a string here, 1, 2, 1, 3 plus 4, I think, that's the string. But usually they will only do 1-2. If they do continue, let's say they 1-2-1, just say this as well, just in case. -20. If they do the 3 plus 4, it's basically almost the same. It's very launch punishable, basically. That's why you'll almost always see only 1-2. You will not see them finish this. Okay. Let's talk about the chainsaw one as well. The chainsaw float. This is very important to talk about as actually because she has new stuff. And the new stuff she has is very cancer. It's super cancer. I don't know why they gave her that. So, chainsaw fly, this one right here, has two very, very strong options. High on block bullet from boot. I thought it was from the chainsaw stance. Oh, it's not. Okay, my bad. So yeah, dude, no region, man. Big thank you for joining the stream because I would have forgot that this kind of stuff. But yeah, this actually has this unblockable as well. I thought it was just the chainsaw one. So this unblockable is a little bit on the slower side. You can sometimes react to it, but it's pretty gimmicky, especially at the wall because it can wall splat you. This is a high unblockable. You have to react to this and duck it because you can't sidestep it most of the time. So be careful about that as well. But now let's talk about the chainsaw one. The chainsaw one has actually two very strong options, which are both of them are new. So chainsaw forward 1 is the mid option basically. It has a low option, but I'm going to talk about the low later. And this is a very strong mid because it does 49 damage. That's a lot of damage. And if I remember correctly, it's only -11. At least as like us player, we get a back 1-2 on this. But be very careful because it can also become -10. The 1-1-2 is basically your most consistent punish here. If you do block this, make sure to punish it at least with something. 1-1-2 or, you know, back 1-2. Either one works. But now let's talk about the mid mix-up that this has, which is crazy. It's chainsaw fly 4-2-2. So this is her hell sweep. Yes, this is a hell sweep. So if you do get hit by this, GG well played, right? This also breaks the wall. I've done this before. When I played Alisa, and I was trying to get Dragon King with her, I was doing this a lot, and the wall breaks. And it also tracks really well. Like if you do try to sidestep this, GG's. Then we try the other side. Nope, GG's. It tracks really well. So it's very, very strong. Be very careful about this. But the big thing about it is it's exactly like a hell sweep. If you do duck it, let's say you duck this, you punish this. You don't have to wait for the second hit, by the way. You just wall stand 2 instantly. Some people wait for the second hit. You don't have to. If you do wait for the second hit, this is also punishable. -33, but don't wait for the second hit. What if the Alisa player just doesn't do it? What if they don't do it? Then what? Now you're standing there like an idiot. So yeah, always punish this. Doesn't matter if they finish or not, it's punishable by wall stand 2. Let me just showcase that as well, just so you guys know I'm not talking out of my ass. Just this. -16, exactly, on the dot. Wall stand 2, every time. It just works, so just do it, if you do block it. But as I said, it's a mix-up. If you do duck, you might get hit by this. And then, I don't know, 50 damage is gone. Almost 50 damage. Yeah, be careful about that. Other than that, this stance also has this low, which is basically the same low. And also has this 2. This 2-1. Which is basically another mid mix-up that she has. Oh, this is the move, wait. This is the move, there we go. You guys remember when I didn't remember the input for this floor break? This is it. So when they hit you with this is guaranteed. And this floor breaks. I forgot this input. I just remembered. I'm so happy for that. So yeah, 60 damage after that's just, it's very, very strong, that mid. That will floor break into a combo. So be very careful. Okay. So I talked about the chainsaw fly more or less. Let's talk about two wall running moves as well, which is wall running 3-4 and wall rank 2. So wall rank 3-4. Damn, this is a long ass speed lab, man. Holy shit. So wall rank 3-4 is a wall running move that Alisa players will usually use if they see you ducking or stepping the wrong side. So this wall running move, wall rank 3-4, is very good to tracking to the right side. I said usually you want to step Alisa to the right. But there's an exception to this. The exception is mid-range, because this move tracks so well to the right. But if you do sidewalk to the left, you will avoid this. But make sure you have to keep sidewalking, because if you don't sidewalk, let's say you do this, second hit tracks you. And it's safe, right? It becomes either -5, -7, or -6. Either of those. So be very careful. If you keep sidewalking, you do get the punish, but make sure to get the correct punish in, you know. Okay. DPT1? Which is DPT1? I don't know what DPT stands for. Actually. But yeah, wall rank 3-4. Oh, dual boot. This? Oh, this. True. I don't see this that much, but I'll mention this. That's good to mention. So this is the high option she has. I don't think you'll see this too much. But this is very plus on block. Yeah. Since not a lot of people seem to know this, it's actually good to mention. That chainsaw is very, very plus. You might get countered after it too. It's +9. That's a lot of plus. So yeah, be careful about that. That's good that you reminded me of that. But I just forgot about it because not a lot of people use that. Okay, and yeah, wall rank 3-4. You usually don't want to block this because it's safe. It's -7. It can become less minus as well, to -5. So you want to sidestep it. The second wall running move they do is wall running 2, which they might do for pressure purposes because it's a plus frame, +5 high. You can duck it obviously, but you don't want to duck it because of the mid that she has. Right? If you duck it, the mid's gonna hit you. That's why you sidestep. The thing about sidestepping is that this can track you a little bit, but if you time it correctly, you can actually make it whiff. That's why something like a sidewalk left can work well, but this can still track you. The biggest thing you can do against this is a sidewalk duck. If you time it correctly, you can be pretty good. Right? But sometimes a pure sidewalk can also work. But be careful of sidestepping or sidewalking in the wrong timing, because this can hit you. Especially because it's a wall running move, right? Same with this. They can add tracking to this just by adding a forward input, because you know, it's a wall running move, just like this. Okay. That's about these two moves. Let's talk about heat as well. And I think that's gonna be it. So in heat, I think the biggest thing about Alisa is her chip damage is way stronger than normal, than any other character. Noon, thank you for following. The new thing, yeah, the new thing is she can enter this, but basically you're gonna get mixed after wall running 2 anyway. But expect the chainsaws normally. Either non-chainsaw or chainsaw while running 2. I think both of them are the same frames. They are the same frames. So yeah, be careful about the chainsaw transition afterwards. So now let's talk about heat. So the big thing about heat is that all the chainsaw moves like this, you know, they do a lot of chip damage. All of this shit. So you don't want to block them too much either. So it's very weird to handle Alisa chainsaws when it comes to her in heat. And this kind of stuff, which I already mentioned, right? This is a heat engager, so it can be heat dashed to make it +5. And the thing is, you cannot do anything about this, and it will deal a lot of chip damage to you. And if you do get hit by it, usually it will launch you. It's basically a launch. So be very careful about this in chainsaw stance, because Alisa players will use this into the heat dash. The other stuff, let's talk about the heat smash as well. So the Alisa heat smash, this one right here. It is a kind of linear. Usually you can sidestep this. I think sidestep left is a little bit better than sidestep right, but both direction can work. Right? But the big thing about punishing this is you have to just follow her. It's very weird to punish because she goes very far. Oh my goodness, I just changed sides. I just went under her. How the fuck? Okay. Yeah, sidestep left basically is way more consistent. I just got hit because I sidestepped to the right. And just follow her and punish her. You'll also get her back. Right? So try to do something that has a back tilt combo. That can also work. That's the main way to punish this. Don't try to punish it instantly because it will whiff. She goes very far away. But let's talk about the heat smash on block, which is the situation that can happen most often. So when you block this, you are -8, and she has like 2 options. One of the options is that she just stays in this stance, normal stance, just mixes you up, right? So -8 mix up, normal stance mix up. But the other option she has is she can actually go into this stance right here, this one, this fly. Which is what you will see if they want to mix you up. So basically, I forgot to record. This right here, there we go. I didn't record it, but at least I showcased it. So they can go into this stance, and the stance mix-up applies. Basically, when they do this... Okay, please work. I was mashing. I didn't record it. I'm an idiot. I just want to showcase. This is gonna be hard to showcase, I'm gonna be honest. There we go. There we go. Wow, big brain. Okay. So they will do this on block. You're gonna be -8. And you're gonna be mixed up by this hell sweep. Basically. You can actually jab her out of this, I think. Unless the frame data is wrong. Yeah, you can't jab her out of it. It's not +8. So yeah, you're basically gonna get mixed up. So the mix-up is either this or the mid that I talked about. Hannibal, speed lap, Horang, gotcha. It's not gonna be tomorrow, I think. I think tomorrow I have scheduled something, but the next one, it will be that. Okay. So yeah, be careful about this on block, because you're gonna get mixed, basically. Either the hell sweep or the mid that I talked about. If they want to stay safe, they might do some other stuff, but be careful of the mix-up is what I want to say. Is there anything else to talk about? There are other heat engagers that she can do heat dash, but that's like the obvious stuff. Like 3-2 might do heat dash, stuff like that. I think 4-2 is like the most obvious one I have to talk about as well. This one right here. So they might do this when they have heat into a heat dash. This makes it from -10 to +5. So be very, very careful about this as well. Because you can't do anything. You can't even parry it, power crush it, can't do anything about this. Because the second hit's a chainsaw. So yeah, be careful about this. But I think that's it, more or less. More or less, that's it. This was a long-ass speed lap, holy shit. This might be the longest one. I'm not even sure. Okay, most likely I did forget some things. Most likely I did. But it's okay. The main things are here. Hopefully it's going to be helpful. But even though I forgot some stuff, as I said, it's okay. Maybe I'll make another video for Alisa later if I did forget too many things or too many stuff changed. Who knows? It's Tekken. Patch is gonna happen. But yeah, YouTube, big thank you for watching, guys. Big thank you, and see you guys later.